I'm gonna come see you about a well too, so.
He loves.
So, quick, give me your phone. Yeah, I see.
There's a new.
Welcome, Davis.
Like, I don't.
A month ago, I think the allergy poll. I don't say it, so I'm cool. Every day though. We've done buttons, yeah, that's it.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the City of Kingston Planning Board meeting. My name is Suzanne Cahill. I'm the Planning Director for the City of Kingston. Today is May 19th, 2025. I just have a couple of quick announcements before we start the meeting. Just want everybody to understand the meeting is being recorded and it is being live streamed, so please be respectful of that. I ask that you please silence your cell phones if you do have them so that they don't interfere with any of the meeting discussion. If you have any conversations that are not having with the board itself, I just ask that you please take them outside of the room. There is a chamber out there, or there's another conference room for more privacy on the other side of the chambers. Also on the other side of the chambers are the men's room and the women's room. As you go through the chambers, to your left is the men's, to your right is the women's. If we have any emergency, we just ask that you please do not use the elevator. We ask that you use the stairs, and if you do need assistance, just ask us and we'll help you. With that, I'm going to open the meeting at 6:04 p.m. and turn it over to Chairman Platt.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. Welcome, everybody. We will begin with introductions. My name is Wayne Platt. We have members Charles Polacco, Robert Jacobson, Matt Gillis, Vince Archer, and Kyra Grundy. Sage Newkirk and Andrew Harris will not be here tonight. You've already met Suzanne Cahill, our planning director. Kyla Dede is the assistant planner. We have Matthew Jankowski. He's the assistant corporation counsel for the city of Kingston. Item number 1 on the agenda is the adoption of the April 21st, 2025 planning board meeting minutes. Everybody's had an opportunity to take a look at them. Any additions, deletions, discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion that we adopt those minutes. Do I have a second? Second by Charles Polacco. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, moving into public hearings. Item number 2 is 270 and 276 Pearl Street. It's a lot line revision of the lands of Nicholas and Sarah Vazda and Kayla Abla Feldman, 2020 Revocable Trust. Section block and lot is 56.31-5-3.100 and 2.100. Seeker determination is in Transect Zone T3L. Nicholas Vazda is the applicant. Nicholas and Sarah Vazda and Kayla Abla Feldman, 2020 Revocable Trust are the owners. Is there anybody besides the owners or applicants wishing to speak on item number 2? Come on up. Come up to the, and Sarah, if you want to come around too, pull up a chair there, you can use that chair. Let the record show that Nicholas and Sarah Vazda are here. Welcome.
Thank
you. Welcome. Okay, we have a map behind you. So tell us what you're looking to do.
So we're proposing to revise the lot line to the south of our property to correct an encroachment that's existing with a couple of fences between the garage and the neighbor's property.
Okay. The verbiage for this application is so limited, so that means everything must be in order, right? So we're yeah. So yeah. Everything's good.
Mm-hmm.
Staff wise, any questions from the board? Okay. No. Oh. Sure. Oh, yes, I'm looking at the wrong one here. I'm looking at 3. All right, so under seeker, this is a type 2 action, so no further review of the board is required. Sue is
Well, we do have the descriptions already and they've been checked, so it's really just the 5 paper copies, 1 Mylar copy also signed by the property owners for your signature. And that is
And
it.
board policy 6.
And board policy 6 and filing.
Okay, so all of those conditions and policies are applicable to a motion I want to make to approve item number 2. Matt Gillis with a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Easy.
Have a good night.
Enjoy them. 5 copies.
Not too bad.
All right. Take care, guys. All right, item number 3 is 623 to 629 Delaware Avenue, subdivision and major waiver of the lands of POK Beacon LLC. Section block and lot is 56.34-10-3. Seeker determination, transect zone T4N-0, Ward 9. Peter F. Kennedy is the applicant. POK Beacon LLC is the. Anybody besides the applicant or owner wishing to speak on item number 3? Okay. Speak on it. So, can anyone introduce your team here?
Yeah, my name is John Steinmeier, local engineer, Peter Kennedy of Kennedy. So this is an existing 4-unit row house.
I was trying to get it up.
That's in pretty rough condition. And
This is what a Tiber had?
I'm sorry,
Tiber, the Tiber on this one?
right next to.
Yes, do some.
Okay, I'm not familiar with this summer.
Okay.
He bought this from the city.
Oh, okay. So I think Tiber might have been. Okay.
So it's 4 2-story units all connected. So the proposal is to do a subdivision and split it into 4 single family, basically
Okay.
townhouse units. So no real structural change. It's a subdivision. And then followed by a rehab. Full rehab.
Rehab will have to have all the firewall behind it.
Correct. Now it has masonry walls in the basement, and they all have basements, but above the basement, it does not have fire separation, so that will have to be. And some of the utilities will have to be separated. There's 4 separate water meters, but I think there's some cross connections between inside the building, so we'll have to get sorted out so that everybody has their own.
Okay. Anyway,
Right. So,
you have to do all separate sewer connections too?
yeah, there's 2 sewer mains going out right now, and then they cross tie inside the building, so we'll have to add 2 additional sewer mains to separate everything out. And I don't know how the water is configured right now. There are 4 water meters, but I'm not 100% sure how the water is configured underground. Basement, so I'll have to figure that out.
So if you, look, all those laterals have to be in each individual unit, otherwise you're gonna need cross easements.
Correct. Yeah, that will be most likely all
That's just something,
laterals coming in.
that's just something for, they keep track of the building that,
Building department, yeah.
oh, they gotta come back to the easements.
Yeah, we're not gonna come up
No.
with this, we're gonna separate the distillery.
No,
It's once a
we've
year.
spoken with Peter about what is going to be required, and I think you've already started talking to the building department as well, a little bit. So if he's familiar with what he needs. The internet is extremely slow tonight, so. That's trying, but it's just not cooperating.
Are there gonna be any cross easements for access from the rear?
Well, we'll have to deal with the building department on that. I think there probably will, because the 2 center units will have, for emergency egress, they'll have to cross over the outside 2 properties to get out of the backyard.
They
And-
have to be able to escape, I think,
In-
back to the property.
Yeah, that's private property as well, so. I think there will be 2 cross easements for emergency egress.
And the waiver request, it's difficult to get side yard setbacks on those 2, right?
Right, the ones in the middle.
Yeah.
It's impossible. You can't
Yeah.
pick them up and slide them over a little bit. So,
Does that need to be a separate vote, the waiver request?
Yeah, yes.
have backyards in them?
Like
lawns and stuff?
yeah, they do.
Here we go.
All right.
Yeah, that goes back to what it was, like setback here is 45 feet. This end is this corner is 56 feet, so it's a decent sized backyard.
So again, you have to make the decision whether you're gonna have cross easements to get into those backyards, or everyone's gonna have to take mowers through the house.
I think we'll have to have cross easements.
Also garbage, storage of your containers. Might have a similar issue with storage of your garbage.
Right. I think that there will have to be cross easements.
So the cross easements will have to be language that has to be provided before, and that'll be a condition, right?
Yep.
All right, any questions from the board? Based on the difficulty would be to get a side yard setback for two of the units. I'm inclined to, approve the waiver request. Second by Robert Jacobson. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. You like this one, Jen? Thank you. Anything else from staff?
No.
Okay. Under seeker, this is a unlisted action. I have before me a short environmental assessment form that staff has indicated is in order. This time I'll make a motion that would be approved. Second on that, second by Matt Gillis. Wayne Platt is a yes. Charles Palaco. Robert Jacobson. Yes. Matt Gillis. Yes. Vince Archer.
Yes.
That is passed. Thank you. All right, you want to go over the
Okay, so what we have is board policy 6, will need to be on the final plans. You'll have to submit by paper, 1 Mylar, a copy of the subdivision, the final document with the owner's signature before the board chairman will sign for filing at the county. You'll need to provide cross easement agreements which cover refuse, containers, as well as secondary emergency access across parcels. And that should be referenced in your parcel descriptions.
Okay, so with those conditions and policies, I'll make a motion that we approve item number 3. A second on that. Second by Matt Gillis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, fellas.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to item number 3 is, 4 is 20 Cedar Street. Special permit renewal for telecommunication use antenna for the purposes of providing community Wi-Fi. Section block and lot is 56.109-4-2.100. Seeker determination, transect zone is T5F, Ward 4. Radio Kingston is the applicant, Rupco is the owner. Anybody besides the owner applicant wishing to speak on item number 4? Come down. How are you? Good, how are you? Good. All right. Can you state your name for the record, please?
Bill Anderson.
Welcome. Yes. Okay, percent renewal. Here, this is it. Any changes to the antenna? Everything's the same?
Everything's on.
Okay.
Who maintains that? Your radio?
They do.
What was the previous approval for? How many years?
5 years.
5? Do you recommend doing another 5? For the board?
Come back to, we'll come back to staff if there's no changes.
Okay.
Unless there is changes in
Yeah.
between.
Okay. All right. Any questions for the board?
No.
Under seeker to take two actions, so no further review of the board is required. At this time, we make a motion that we approve item number 4 for a period of 5 years. All original conditions carry forward. Unless changes at all, height, whatever, on our back, right? All right, so that's a motion. But a second, Robert Jacobson with a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good one. Take care.
All right, still under public hearings. Item number 5 is 24 President's Place. A special permit to operate a bed and breakfast. Section block lot is 56.42-8-8. Seeker determination. Transect zone T4 and Ward 8. Jessica Carey is the applicant. Anybody besides the applicant or owner wish to take on item number? Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
State your name for the record, please.
I'm Jessica Carey.
Welcome. All right, fire away.
So I'm a weird full circle lot because I rented a piece about 12 years ago, stayed at the bed and breakfast around the corner from my house. 2 years later, found my house. And I'm a single woman living in a huge Victorian house.
Was that a Bells place? you
It
said?
was Boyce, Linda Boyce, and Lou.
No, where you stayed.
Oh, I was staying at Church Day.
Okay.
It's around the corner of my state.
I didn't even interrupt you. Go ahead.
So then 2 years later, I walked around the block and someone around the house, out of their house and asked if I was looking to buy a house. Huge, it's Victorian, it's not my style, but 6 months later, I owned it. And after 5 hard years of commuting to the city, just really have been trying to do everything I can to dig in and be here in the present. Yes, so was originally thinking this as a retirement plan to turn the house into a bed and breakfast. But circumstances, including my company being bought out a year ago and variable consulting, as well as all the historical costs of renewing a house like this, which unfortunately has asbestos tiles on the exterior and things like that that cost $50,000 to fix. I thought I'd better start thinking about investing in some income coming from the house. And so it's pretty well set up for that. I've been sort of building and doing work at a high quality standard to have this future in my possibility in my future. And it's just come a little sooner than thought. So here I am. Originally was thinking just to start with a 1-room rental rent. So it's part-time and understood for multiple room, but officially a bed and breakfast. So here we go. Not proposing any changes to the structure, but just the ability to do the multiple room rentals. There's 3 rooms initially that would be potentially in the mix with a maximum of 4 guests.
Spacing.
So one question we were confused. So which is the owner's bedroom? Because we couldn't figure that out in your floor plans.
So there's actually a partially finished attic bedroom. That's the servants' quarters.
Okay.
So I am my own servant.
Oh,
That's
right.
But
Makes sense.
But there's
When you said the number of bedrooms, we were like, oh,
I'm just gonna work.
The owner goes.
No, there's
So
a
you're in the attic.
there's servants' quarters in that's fully plastered with.
I have a picture behind you there too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, there's my house before my landscaping. Landscaping was better. Yeah, so additionally, the thought is that yes, that I would be limiting initially to the weekends, but not sure how it's all gonna play out, what the gifts will be and how I will feel about looking strangers.
What's the name of the place going to be?
It's gonna be called Headland House, which is Welsh for pleasant peace. It's like my peace place and it always has been. So originally I thought about calling it President's Place, but circumstances are such that I don't think I'll call it that.
Okay.
Are all guests gonna enter the front?
Yes.
Are you gonna have like some sort of like keypad?
Yes. A keypad entrance prepared and locksmith for that.
Are you gonna be cooking for the guests on President?
Yeah, it's breakfast every morning.
Should have no parking issues there.
There's no parking. I have a lot on the other side of the street and there's no houses on the other side of the street. So those of you who know President's Place, it's usually really empty on this side because my neighbors on the other side have driveways. I'm the only one without. So that there's lots of parking on that street. Unless it's truly on the Hudson day.
For fire safety stuff or required, is there any additional fire safety stuff that?
I mean, it's considered a single family house, right? So, you know,
Smoke alarms, probably. Absent.
Nothing unique about it.
Whereas.
And I think they'll be inspected.
Mhm.
As part of that process.
But, and when they get renewals, they'll get inspections too, and there'll be a registration with the city clerk.
This renewal process annual.
What is the renewal now? How many years?
And,
You can set it.
And then it just stays in staff?
do we want to do 1 year? Typically do 1 year, the initial
we
one?
do 1 year for the initial, and then, if she comes back, and there are no changes, it'll be administrative review. So when you think about your term, just make it for in August, so month. That's what we'd ask.
So that'll be August of 2026. So.
Mhm.
We don't need them.
You ready to start running it out right now?
Well, I am not immediately ready. I would want to do a little bit of work,
Okay.
but a few months away, if that was any other safety inspection process and what came out of that. That's what makes it good.
Is the board comfortable with a 1 year initial term? This is what we usually do for
Sure.
restaurants, beds and breakfasts. So, and then we'll tack on a few extra months to get it to August of 2026 is when they're requesting too. So everybody's good with that? All right.
She increased the rentals, so she can come back.
Excuse me?
If she increases the amount of rentals.
If she increases the number of years, yeah, she would come back. If there's no change, then she would just be through us.
So this is for 4 bedroom now?
It was initially
Yes.
to start with 3, but 4 is the potential. Max.
Wow.
You want to go ahead?
Yeah. 4 is-
4?
Okay.
Right.
It's a great day for her.
Wonderful. Thank you all.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? All right, seeker, again, type 2 actions, so no further review of the board is required. Yeah, we do. We're gonna have a Knox box for the building too. You familiar with that? It's for fire department access after hours.
Yeah.
If they're not there, they need to get into the building. You'll have keys that you put in there.
Okay.
And the fire department's the only one that has keys to get into that box. Hundreds of these things are, at least you've got one in your office, so secure. Okay.
So they don't break down?
Yeah, I would love them not to
Door.
break down my historic door. That's all fine.
All right, yep, Sandy, but
Yeah, one in my house.
yeah, well, not the house, but not the office. Okay, okay.
Well, type 2.
We did, all that.
Okay, so I have, board policy 6, 18, and 23. You're approving it for 4 bedrooms, compliance with 405.21.d and registration with the city clerk as well. And the term will expire in August of 26.
Okay, so with all those conditions and policies, I'll make a motion that we approve item number 5. Do I have a second? Second by Vince Archer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Gary. Good luck.
Thank
Ready?
you.
Ready?
Thank you.
You'll have it ready by 4th of July.
Too soon. Ready.
Okay, Item number 6 is 685 Broadway, special permit renewal for auto sales and repairs, second block and lot is 56.92-3-21, secret determination, transect zones T5MS, heritage area, Ward 4, Dago A. Maratz is the applicant owner. Anybody besides Mr. Maratz wishing to speak on item number 5? Welcome.
Hello,
Mr. Maratz is here. Welcome back.
I've been seeing you for about a year.
Yeah, sometimes when we have you come back, you're on vacation somewhere, so it's good to see that you're back in town now. So, how's business? Good?
Good.
Playing. All right. You got it. Okay, so the original permit was issued in May of 2004. Do you have any changes there right now?
No change now. $20 now.
Yeah. Anything to share? I know we're waiting for inspection, but that's a
Scheduled,
administrative.
I think it's scheduled for tomorrow, right?
Oh, you're the building inspector? Okay.
Yeah.
Inspection? Okay.
Yeah.
So we can make that a condition, right?
This does have to come back. I have in here, because it's, when sales repairs are not permitted any longer under the new code, but it's considered a legally pre-existing use with an active special permit, it can continue, but the board has to review it. Anyone else. So that's
So he would have to come back to us. It doesn't go to that. Okay.
that section of code.
Okay.
What term are you recommending?
We've been doing them annually, as long as there's no issues, and it comes back with a satisfactory building response. I don't know if you want to go longer. It's up to you.
With Robert suggesting 2 years instead of having 1. Everybody's good with 2 years? Matt, good? Are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other questions from the board?
Is there a knockbox?
It should be, if you want to do no conditions.
You have a Knox box on that building, do you? Okay,
It's out there. I just did it last year with the fire department.
okay. Okay, so, under secrets, type 2 action, no further review of the board is required with that. And we have, I'll make a motion that we approve item number 6 for a period of 2 years. Pending a satisfactory inspection by the Building Safety Division. You will have to return to the board, this board, in 2 years. Okay, for that. And all original conditions will be carried forward. Second on that? Second by Vince Archer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Take care. Good seeing you, pal. Bye. Item number 7 is 336 East Chester Street, special permit renewal / amendment for a general commercial auto-oriented services and controlled substance sales with the addition of open storage. Section block to block, 48.83-2-1.100, seeker determination, transect zone P3N-0, Word 7, MNZ Realty Holdings Incorporated is the applicant owner. Anybody besides the applicant or owner wishing to speak on item number 7? Okay. How you doing tonight? Good. Can you state your name for the record, please?
Abdul Razak.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
So for this application, this is two things. There is a special permit renewal that's going on, for the, controlled substance sales with the general commercial auto oriented gas station. when we looked at this for renewal, we identified that there's another use that is being activated there, and it's a towing business. So we don't have all of the information for that at this point. Our recommendation at staff level, since the others are operated by the owner, that we renew the special permit as it is with the owner's uses, and then have the tenant that is going to be undertaking this new business on the same site, have him come in and make the application for the special permit for the towing business separate from the owner's business.
And you've had that conversation with that?
Yes, he's actually right now not doing anything besides the parking lot using it. And the garage he had, he's using for the only storage.
Okay.
Right, well, the garage is gonna have some code issues,
Exactly.
so that's another reason to keep it separated
we will-
out with you.
Yeah, he's gonna take care. I talked to him already, so he's not
He
doing
needs-
anything right now till he get all the straightened out.
You know, sometimes folks, when they come back for renewals, they find out, like that this towing business isn't part of the original plan.
Yeah.
So then we get to talk about that now and straighten anything out. So that's what we're doing right now.
No problem.
Okay,
I will-
I appreciate you straightening it out.
No, we're there.
Any other changes beside, nothing else?
Yes.
And building safety, I see here, there's a couple building inspections, the building, permits that need to be.
Yeah, they're coming on 27th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they are all done. I did it last year. I think the inspector came, everything okay. I submitted all the paperwork. For some reason, he retired, so they want to check again. So I have no issue.
Okay, does that need to be a condition too to
We
close
can
up?
confirm.
All right, we're just gonna confirm to have those closed out. You probably got paperwork on a certificate of occupancy for them. We're just gonna confirm that
Yeah,
just
they're
to
coming.
be part of this
Uh,
approval.
Will be done as of this month.
Any other questions from the board? No? Okay, good with the staff.
Mhm.
Okay. Type 2 action under seeker, so no further review of the board is required for this. Is there a Knox box in the building, right? Do you have a Knox box on the building for fire department to get in? You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
With him, we did that last
Okay.
time.
All right, and you done with
Mhm.
okay. You just want to read those for me?
Just all original conditions will be carried forward. Staff will confirm with Building Safety Division that there are no outstanding issues and or violations. And the towing business will apply separately for an application for special permit.
And we have a term to,
So what you do?
What was the last one?
Huh? What was the last one? I want to say it was a year. I don't know.
That's good.
I don't.
We haven't had any problems though, right? Did you?
two? Everybody good with 2 years?
I didn't hear what the last one was.
Does that also have to come back for like Dagos did or no? For-
No, these are allowed in this
Okay.
set.
All right, so we're gonna go to 2 year to come back again, and then if you're good with that, then you just get to see her every
No
2
problem.
years after that, so.
We had the both couples time together.
Yeah, that has to be taken. So I'm gonna tell the guy, he's gonna come here, apply everything what need to.
Yeah. Once that comes through, we'll time you with this one, so they all hang together.
Okay.
So do we need to make that August as well, in August of 2027?
Yeah.
Good with that? August 2027, okay.
No, this doesn't include the solid,
What's that?
fenced in area. There's no-
Yeah,
They're gonna bring another application forward.
Yeah. Okay, so that is, as Sue described, that's a motion. Do I have a second on that? Second by Chuck Palaco. All in favor? Aye, opposed, carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank
All right, take care.
thank you.
Okay. Um, Item, you want to do both of them together, right? Item 8 and 9, it's 615 Broadway and 35 Cedar Street. Item 8 is a lot line revision of the land of the city of Kingston and the Salvation Army. Section lot, the lot is 56.109-3-16 and 56.109-3-42. Secret determination, transect zone T5MS and T5N. Ward 4, Baxter Development Company LLC is the applicant. City of Kingston and Salvation Army are the owners. Item number 9 is a site plan and major waiver request to construct a mixed-use building with ground floor commercial and 70 residential units.
Site plan, delivery.
Should we do the link? Can you send me the link still?
Oh,
Sorry, I was trying to do it silently without interrupting you, but
Oh, that's right.
Same section blocks and lot, secret determination, same transect zones, Ward 4. Baxter Development Company LLC is the applicant. City of Kingston and Salvation Army are the owners. Anybody besides Natalie Flynn here wishing to speak on item number 8 and 9?
So can you send her the link with your?
Okay. Hi, Natalie.
hi. Or I can just walk it verbally. I just don't need, I don't even care if that's sent verbally. Maybe it goes quicker. I'm sure.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Computer is just like spinning and spinning. I'm great to restart.
So I can start talking while that gets set up and then, there's been no changes to kind of the site plan layout or the architecture of the building. Everything that's been submitted in this last submission was kind of additional information in response to questions that we received from the planning department. So main changes were cleanups to the site plan and the architectural plans to just kind of correct some notes about what was being referenced. Within the architectural set, we did add a shadow analysis, looking at one of the waivers we're requesting for the rear 20 feet of the building, which I'll show kind of imagery of that when we get there. So we did a shadow analysis of that at summer and winter equinox, in the morning, midday, and evening to kind of show how that waiver, the impact of that waiver. We also did a line by line response to all the planning comments, kind of the summarization of the planning comments and questions. And then updated waiver requests and management memo based on some of the comments that came in. So just as a reminder, this project, the majority of the site and all building and every portion of the building is within the T5 and Main Street district. The driveway and some of the parking and open space are in the Salvation Army's parcel that is in the T5N district.
I just sent you the link.
Yeah, it's a-
So I typically start by saying, where are you with the Salvation Army? You know?
Yeah, it's
So,
a fun question, right? Well, but we do have news. We have moved within the levels of bureaucracy. We have moved from the regional approval, so we now have regional approval. There was no edits or changes to the draft easement and purchase agreement. And then that went up to state level approval. So that's where it is right now.
All right, so we're still waiting for the sign off from them on the whole thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I spoke with the attorney today. He's very sweet. Someone has to let me in. And he lets me know there's no issues. It's just moving through the process. It's just time. It's just time. But I mean, at least we had some movement where we're from one board to the other. So this board, the state board is the last one. They'll be able to sign the agreement.
Okay. So we're not going to be able to, we're going to work stuff tonight, right? But we're not going to be able to make a decision tonight. And it may precipitate having to have a special meeting between now and.
I can't really something that getting done.
We don't have the resolutions ready either. And there are still a couple of engineering does have. And just like their performance bond, cost estimate, we're gonna need, because the board has to.
I have that information. We haven't received any additional engineering comments, though.
Sorry, my screen just went black, so.
Start. All right, we're in a good place.
Okay. Before we get into the shadow, report, we're probably going to be close to public hearing tonight. close that out, right? That's, we can do that. I also have it here that Parks and Rec still hasn't made a decision on their,
I believe we're in conversation with the mayor's office on that
Okay.
because we are purchasing this land from the city of Kingston and they're kind of one of our development partners.
okay.
And because of the publicly accessible plaza that's being provided, that there's been discussion of a waiver of that fee. Because I needed that. Sorry, if you're stuck, it said I needed.
That's beautiful.
Isn't it lovely?
Looks like Minecraft.
Well, I could just keep going because in the cover letter, there were some things that were still not addressed and I have updates on all of those. And so,
Roll down here.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the city hall internet, what's going on. I don't know.
I should pass them around.
Oh, that's small. Version.
So kind of going through some of the,
Why can't we get computers? That was his comment just now. So that was his comment 6 months ago before you even were here. So why can't we get new computers? Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, so I just wanted, one of the outstanding items that was noted in our letter was that we should coordinate with the city's corporation council on the agreements. So we've sent both a regulatory agreement, which would manage the affordable housing units, as well as the agreement that's going between us, Salvation Army, and 609 for the purchase of the property from Salvation Army and the granting of the easement back to them and to the tenants of 609 to be able to access through our site for parking and access to the rear of their lots. So drafts of both of those were sent to Corporation Council just on Friday. Plans, the lot line adjustment has been updated to show the exact amount of square footage being purchased from Salvation Army. It's 9,053 square feet. And then that was added to our lot area and everything was calculated. We've identified a space for e-bike parking. I think there was a comment from planning about not allowing e-bikes to be stored or charged within the units in the building. So we've designated a space for that is outside but still covered within the parking structure. So that tenants are more likely to actually leave their e-bikes there rather than bring them inside, so that they can be charged outside safely. We made some edits to the planting list based on the urban forester's comments for native species. So all those changes have been made. Like I said, no change to the construction phasing plan or the renderings, elevations. Those all remain the same that we saw at the last meeting. No changes to the floor plan, but we did provide a typical floor plan layout. And I have a full set if we want this out for copy too.
Going back to life. Okay.
I just gave you permission.
Maybe if I pull this out, then you're gonna be able to start. Then we have the option here.
Okay, should be good. All right.
All right. Moving through, talk about the zoning districts that it falls within, that's not changed. Project is still the same, it ranges between 5 stories, 70 units, mixed between studios, 1 and 2 bedrooms. Affordable, we are doing, based on the city's definition of this, we are doing 20% affordable units and we're doing 80% at the workforce housing level of units. So full project will be kind of the below market rate standards.
Is that gonna be part of the deed covenant too?
That's the regulatory agreement that we sent to Corporation Council to.
So in that regulatory agreement, though, it mentions just 7 and 7 being actual formally deed restricted. Is that the way?
Yeah, so we're gonna do what's required by the code to be.
To be deed restricted,
Yeah.
and the balance will be, but they won't be in the covenant.
Yeah, because the covenant runs for, so I think what we put in
Pilot
there.
agreement, right? That runs with the regulatory agreement runs with the pilot. Is that the way I read it?
I think it runs,
And then then those 7 and 7 would stay perpetual with the
Forever.
covenant.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, in perpetuity. So like I said, we kind of adjusted the lot line, calculations in here just to, now that, remember, there was a change that originally we were going to be getting an easement from Salvation Army for the driveway. They want us to purchase the driveway and the rear portion, so we're purchasing all of that and giving them back an easement for access. We provided, as requested, a calculation, for open space, so as been discussed a number of times, the main feature of this has been something that we've been working with since the original RFP with the city to provide Olveros listening plaza and continue that presence. So this is a publicly accessible open space with a landscaping island in the middle. And then we are changing this driveway to a landscaped kind of residential access point, pedestrian only. Plant list I mentioned was updated. Nothing, I don't believe anything has changed on our construction phasing, but obviously this is an urban site, it's a tight urban site with building up to the property lines. So we went through some of the details. A lot of that will be finalized once we get to the point of construction level drawings for building permits. But just to give an idea of how we plan to stage construction. And then elevations have not changed. Just as a reminder, the front building, this is all connected as one building, but we did a lot to make it look like multiple buildings to break up the massing. So the front building is 3 stories, and then there's kind of where the density is kind of hidden towards the back of the lot is in these 2 buildings, 2 towers of the same building that are 5 stories.
The construction equipment will be coming in from Cedar Street.
The majority, we do have to do some from Broadway in the beginning, and then to build out the front part of this tower. But the majority of the larger vehicles will be coming in off the Cedar. Just as a reminder, within this district, this is in the Broadway, the height kind of corridor, so they are encouraging higher levels here, up to 8 stories. We worked a lot with the city about the right balance between parking on site, even if parking is not required, there is no minimum. But we wanted to work with the city on provision of parking versus number of units. So that's kind of how we ended up at 5 stories, with the parking provided on site underneath the back building. This is the same facade that you've seen. We've changed a little bit of that entrance to the plaza area there to create that one storefront now has kind of glass facing both on Broadway and Plaza. And we internalized the stairs going up to the upper units on this front portion of the building to make our facade occupancy more compliant. Out the gates. Plaza, again, the uses are not confirmed yet. They're just kind of stand-ins for grocery store and beer hall. But the idea is that all the commercial spaces have access to this shared public plaza. That's the rear of the front building. This is looking out towards Broadway. And this is kind of the access point from Salvation Army. I think we would like to add some landscaping here, but fire also wanted this as like an emergency access. So we want to kind of be cognizant of what we add to this space, or if we could just do maybe permeable pavers or something along those lines. Make it a little bit more green. Night shot. And then floor plans have not changed except for this. Let me zoom in. This is kind of where we just showed layouts, a typical layout. They're not all standard throughout the building, but a 2-bedroom, a studio, and a 1-bedroom are kind of all shown there together. And I'm happy to kind of go back to anything if people want. So I wanted to focus on the waivers. I think this is something that we would like some clarity from the board on. We are requesting 3 waivers. I think they've been noted for the last few months that we are requesting these waivers. So I think at this time, we're trying to tidy up the plans, get everything for approval. So I think we need official acknowledgement of whether the waivers can be granted. So the first one is for frontage occupancy. In the zoning district, 90% minimum is required. We have increased from 69.5 feet to 76 feet with the internalization of the stairs. So we did increase our compliance there. But we are still only making it to 72, just over 72%. So we're short of that 90. And I think what we're saying here is that what the unique circumstance is the requirement from the city to provide this publicly accessible open space. We used to have the plaza kind of on the front and super visible from Broadway. And I think we moved that internal so that we could have a building that's kind of filling in the street wall. But we do still need to, for these businesses to work and for the plaza space to work, there still needs to be kind of visual access as well as physical access to this space. So we have kind of shrunk the entrance as much as possible, but we feel like this is necessary for people to feel kind of invited back into the plaza.
No, like you said, we've been trying to get everybody who's in filling on Broadway best we can to front right on Broadway, you know, the
Right.
exception being the pharmacy down with the old bus terminal. So we've been trying to get that. So I think this accomplishes that, provides an adequate space for
Yeah, I
folks at the
think,
rear.
you know, if you recall, like, you know, how the plan has been modified throughout the renditions. I mean, what they originally came in with, which was much shorter building with less frontage. They had the open staircases on either end, which we really didn't feel were suitable. They also required a waiver. So they've internalized the access to the second floors in the center of the building, making it more in keeping with the street frontage that is defined under the new code. But still, they're not meeting that 90%, but I think by moving the gate back and creating more of a welcoming entryway there, they also have a nice entrance to the rear plaza. So I think they've really done a lot to create an atmosphere along Broadway that is, I think, in my
glass on the side.
yeah.
And then part of this is landscaping too, up in against the historic building,
Right.
and kind of a landscaping planter, so it's not, there's some green that you see as you walk by too.
This particular
Okay. I think that's what she's really
Yeah,
looking
I don't
for.
either. How does the rest of the board feel about that?
No issue.
Okay. Great. It will be formalized in a resolution later.
And then the second waiver, there is a minimum 16-foot height requirement for ground floor commercial uses. Our architects spend a lot of time trying to scale this building to the adjacent building, the historic building at 609, 611. So what we did for our ground floor was to mimic the lines in the windows of that. So there's kind of a common language across the buildings, is we kept it at 14 feet, 6 inches to match the historic building next door.
And the city's working on a language to modify the.
Right. However, in the T5MS, that's not being proposed as a change
Okay.
at this point.
But what she says makes
Just
sense.
looking at it from a
Line up.
contextual
Yeah.
type of basis, which when you're looking at the form-based code, in many cases, you're looking at contextually, how does the proposed structure blend or fit in with the, and is consistent with the accompanying ones on either side of it. So this is really looking at it from a contextual approach. With the building at 609 also being on the National Register, I think it's appropriate to try and
Yeah.
maintain that kind of line of vision and that integrity as well.
Yeah.
So we don't have an issue with this.
Yeah, they either.
I'll go on record, I have no issue.
Board.
No issue.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so the third and final one is a section within the code that says building heights within 20 feet of a rear lot line. Building may not be more than half a story taller than the allowed height of adjacent buildings. So the rear lot line of this is it's a really weird shaped lot and it's long. So although we are fronting on Broadway, the rear portion of this is adjacent to T4N and T4NO zoning districts, which the max building height there with the bonuses is 3.5 feet. That means legally under the code, we could only go up to 4 feet where 5 is proposed. And so that is just for this 20-foot portion of the back side of the tower of the building. And so we feel in order to make this project is kind of razor thin in terms of margins because of the affordability, because of the lands, because of the plaza and the benefits that we're adding to this this would cut this out, would have us either lose 2 units or reduce some of the two, to keep the same unit count, get rid of some of the 2 bedrooms and turn them to 1 bedrooms or studios. So what our argument here is, although it is feasible, that the benefit to the applicant and the benefit to the community of providing additional affordable housing outweighs any negative impact from this square being 5 stories. And so what we did to also kind of show that was a shadow diagram. And so the one on the top is no setback, so it's the full building going all the way 5 stories all the way to the back. And then this is the difference with that kind of 20-foot cutout. And so again, that we're trying to use that as our justification of saying like the impacts are minimal compared to what we would legally be allowed to do by the code. So we're requesting this waiver to allow for the floor plan and unit count that we propose to be retained.
Questions on this? This was something that came up in public comment by some of the adjacent property owners, what the effect of shadowing would be. So we did ask them to produce these studies. So they've done it in both a summer and a winter solstice, so you can see the difference. I don't know if the board has any questions on it. Do you understand what you're looking at?
No, I think that's a good illustration. I mean, certainly answers the question, will that additional height create an issue for me? I mean, or for the neighborhood? I don't see one.
Yeah, I don't see what I'm in front of me.
Okay, right.
So that was it. The rest of my slides are kind of background slides that can use this for conversation.
And as far as, sorry, now the last waiver request, there's the board, rest of the board good with
Shadowing.
the shadowing?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, so I guess we are trying to kind of move this project forward as much as possible. So I appreciate the acknowledgement of the waivers. I think that's helpful. It allows us to kind of like finalize and tidy everything up.
yeah,
I guess I would want to make a request that it at least, that there's potential for consideration at the next meeting to be approved with the Salvation Army letter of authorization.
I think we're at that point. I mean, we talked about closing the public hearing tonight. We've had a lot of input.
Yeah.
You know, and they have adjusted the project accordingly based on some input. So,
Do you want to talk about the county comment?
sure.
It's in your notes.
I think the request was that the affordable units, I think I was really happy to see they commend the project and appreciate the partnership, each number 2. But the request was that the affordable units be split between 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom to the studio, so that they're not all just studios that are affordable units, but mixed. That has always been the intent. And I think we have an option for that in the draft regulatory agreement where we can talk about the percentage of split for those 14 units.
And then are they peppered throughout the building?
We're open to discussion on that. I think we were waiting to see I assumed the city was going to have a standard or requirement on that.
Required that they be dispersed throughout the.
Yeah, don't want it to be, don't want a segregated area for, you know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Oh, they will be spread throughout the building.
That's what I thought.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The county comment will concur with. So the county comment will concur with that.
Yeah.
And then back to Salvation Army, if we have the resolutions next month, the Salvation Army,
Thank you. Go ahead, Robert. Go
and
ahead.
the Salvation Army is still sitting on it, can we approve it pending that approval?
To approve it tonight, you mean?
No, I'm saying next meeting, Salvation Army takes a while. Can we approve the resolution pending that approval? Obviously, the approval doesn't
I'll
approve.
think on that, because they can't do any filing of any documents with the county, and our approvals starts timeline.
We would be
So we
comfortable with
want
that.
them to be caught up in that.
I think we would be comfortable with that. At this point, it's just trying to get out of the site plan review process. So we can put a little bit more pressure on Salvation Army to do this, and then there's other, obviously permits and building set, but client obviously doesn't feel comfortable moving forward with construction level drawings until we have site plan approval.
Well, let me think on that.
So you,
Because the problem is next meeting is going to be June,
I understand that.
and July. I'm just thinking, well, we meet in July, but we
Yeah.
meet in August.
Typically, no, but we've also offered special meeting for them. And I think it would be, that would be an option as well.
We're trying not to see anywhere either, so
Yeah.
I hope you know.
Not ended.
So there are.
No, I think we've been taking this process
Right.
at our own risk this entire time, developing, moving forward. We feel absolutely confident that they're going to approve the agreement. It's just a matter of time. And so if the board feels comfortable with it, the applicant feels absolutely comfortable with it being a condition. We think we can work that in within the timelines.
So there's still a couple things with engineering that they want to see, with the stormwater stuff that will get to you. The bond amount is something else that this board will need to endorse.
Yeah, we can talk about the bond. Can we get the engineering comments today though? Because we've kind of been waiting on their comments for a number of
Yeah,
months.
and the most of them you did address, there were a couple key, well, John is out of state, which is why we didn't get the bond ones from him. Trying to think what I know keys.
I think we had that workshop 2-3 months ago.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I didn't get the final stuff by Keith. I can send you these tomorrow. Mail them to you.
Okay, yep, that would be helpful. And then, so we just got the estimate in, for the site work, so it comes out to 819,062.05 cents
Okay,
for
so
site work.
the city engineer will have to review that and approve that as well.
Okay,
All right,
okay.
so
Can we, is there someone we can reach out directly to address those comments and work on them and keep this?
Keith Phillips, yep. He was in the meeting with us.
Yeah, I remember.
So just to move back into the county's comments, we have concurred that,
We will vote on it as part of the resolution that we.
but at this time, we're saying that the applicant has met that
Yes.
rate.
Yeah, that was the-
I think it's unclear to me that we all concurred with that. That's,
They're gonna put that in the resolution.
Yep, it'll be in the final resolution.
yeah, I don't know what else we can go.
The Port Council is reviewing the easement agreements and regulating agreement. Regulatory.
My plea would just be, do not change the easement agreement, because then we have to start all over with Salvation Army. Because that is an agreement between us, Salvation Army, and 609, 611. So the lawyers for those 3 parties are reviewing them.
Okay, what about like dates? Because one thing I did notice is the subdivision date is not the most current one that's in the documents. It was revised, so it had a June date referenced, but the December date is the one that we're looking, it's the December date on the map.
They haven't been getting the same exact plan since that. I mean, we might have sent it to them earlier. So let me check.
Okay, so that's one definite thing. I make some comments, but I'll go through the map first.
With regards to regulatory agreement or the.
Yeah.
No, because they easement agreement.
She's talking about the easement for the.
Yeah, they both reference the older subdivision.
Okay, I'm not concerned about that, but I guess if there's major changes to other aspects of that, I think we could note correction to plan.
Yeah, no, mostly the regulatory one. I have a lot more.
That's fine,
There's a lot of stuff where we'll go over and.
Right,
Those are, there's gaps left in there that we expect to have conversations about. But
Yeah.
like I said, the attorneys of the other parties have reviewed the easement and purchase agreement, so changes to that will be more difficult.
okay, with the easement agreement, do you have the exhibits?
I will speak to the attorney.
Okay, because they didn't come.
Yeah, they did not. Well, at least what was provided to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could forward the.
So what are the only things right now holding us up from scheduling a special meeting to start that process?
Engineering, review of the regulatory agreement, Salvation Army approval.
The easement agreement will just confirm, performance bond, Parks and Rec will need to meet.
So all of those things have to happen before we can
Correct.
schedule a special meeting.
Correct.
Or,
Yeah, and we'll talk about the other option.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Okay. Are we all in agreement we can close the public hearing?
Yes.
Or, yes, we'll do that. Everybody has concurred with that.
You want to vote on that?
You want to vote on that? Do you need an official vote on closing the public hearing?
yes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing on items number 8 and 9. Robert Jacobson, second. All in favor?
I,
Aye. Opposed? That's carried. Guess we're.
I make a motion to table.
All right, we have a motion by Robert Jacobson to table. Is there a second on that? Second by Vince Archer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. We're almost there.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you, Natalie. You folks from Trevor?
Yeah.
Okay. We are, and let me also note that Alderwoman Sarah Paskey is here at this time. She's been here for the past couple, 2, 3 items on the agenda, so. I'm gonna mention that. Yes. All right, in the new business now, item number 10 is 167 Trentford Avenue. Site plan to add. Is this yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't really get into those out.
I'm sorry, a site plan to add 2 units to an existing 3-family building. Section block and lot is 38.333-8-8, seeking terminate Transect Zone T4 and Ward 4. Max Besser is the applicant later. You're Max.
I'm Eric Rick also.
Okay, how are you?
Good, how's it going?
All right. Former funeral parlor.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a huge garage that they used to be able to pull in a hearse and turn around and bring back out that we're hoping to convert into a nice big apartment.
All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna have some stuff going up here shortly.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Up in the air right now.
We get to a point in your life where your signature changes. You ever done that yet? I think I'm there. All right, we're waiting for do some stuff up here. But anyway, go ahead and start. Let us know when you're.
Yeah, so old funeral parlor, that's exactly it, you know, beautiful kind of New Orleans looking brick building, you know, with the little balconies are all black and metal. There's a carriage house that's, or we kind of call it an annex, it's connected to this really big garage. You know, old zoning, we couldn't do anything with it. There's already, the main building is a basement, first floor, top floor apartment. Top floor is 4 beds, first floor 2 bed, basement is a 1 bed. So, you know, almost half of the building's been kind of sitting vacant until these zoning laws changed, you know. So we have some architectural plans that are coming up, but
So the end result is a 5.
is a 5 total. Yeah. So there's the 3 stacked, and then the large garage will be a 1-bedroom apartment, and then the back carriage house will be a 2-bedroom apartment.
Okay.
And at some point or another, the carriage house was an apartment at some point, because when we purchased it back in 19 or something like that,
Yeah.
there was a whole kitchen and the bathroom upstairs, and I don't know when it was put in, whether it was legal or not, but there was at some point there an apartment.
But that's not part of your 5?
That is my.
Well, that's a vacant area that we are trying to.
That would be.
That would be number 5.
Yeah.
Showing on my screen, it's dark. I know this drives Robert absolutely crazy.
See, I think we jinxed it this afternoon by saying.
I don't know if it's the internet.
Okay.
It's just extremely slow today. So anyways.
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna go through some of the notes. There we go. Now we're going. Okay.
So this is just the survey.
And where's that carriage house you said?
Where it says,
Sorry.
That's-
all good.
Sorry.
I'll actually just get up to make it easier too. So kind of, this is the existing structure, or it's all existing, right? But this is the currently habitable section. And then this is the garage here that goes back and opens up here. And then the carriage house is actually 2 stories. in the back right there. Yeah. Yeah, literally just as much square footage.
Like 1,700 square feet of vacant space.
So just the carriage house.
The carriage house is 2.
The apartment is 2 stories?
Yeah.
But 2 bedroom would be a 2-story apartment.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
was
2 bedrooms, 3
bathroom
bathrooms, upstairs.
that in 73, and that was not.
what the name of the funeral home was?
That I don't know, actually.
It actually went from funeral home to church, to apartments in the 80s. Or that's what I've been told.
Yeah, we get bits and pieces from the neighbors.
Was Reverend Goddard the pastor? There was a Reverend Goddard. I don't know if you've dug into the history of that, huh?
No, I haven't looked.
Oh, but, yeah, we go. It's totally open sign on the building.
Yeah, right.
Might show, oh yeah, it shows it there on the picture.
Yeah.
So you've taken the garage door out?
This is two properties.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah, I think that was one of the comments initially. We're gonna
Right.
do a new entrance there with a door to those back 2 apartments directly through there.
And in one of your responses, you talked about the storage for the refuse totes. Is that on which side of the building?
Yeah, so sometimes, well, there's 3 sets for the 3 apartments right now.
Okay,
The person in the back keeps them in their there's a walkway in the
okay,
back there. On the right side of the building, they keep them in there, and then the other 2 either keep them in front of the garage door or off to the side in this alley. Kind of like this little space right
So are
here.
you planning for each unit to have their own set of totes? So, because that would be,
That's not.
15 totes, yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's not necessary.
yeah,
And also when it comes to recycling, that you don't need, everybody doesn't need their own recycling.
Okay.
yeah. I think we had
Usually
talked.
for 5 unit, I mean, I have the one at 29 more, and that's a 5 unit, and 3 totes is more than enough. I mean,
Okay,
a 4th, if really, kind of stuff as tenants.
so how many, like, of the regular brown refuse totes are you thinking you're gonna need?
So 3, and then if tenants say, hey, there's not enough.
Okay,
we'll
so
get
you
more,
think you
but-
stay with what you have and,
Yeah, I mean, at the moment,
Okay.
it's been, you just get them just because it's easy for every tenant. Nobody,
okay,
it's honestly better not to hear anybody complaining. You like just everybody kind of having their own bin. But if you add 2 more units, I don't think there's going to be necessary for more totes for unit.
okay, great.
We had an old tenant that had a very large family living upstairs, and they needed their own bin, for sure.
Okay.
That beauty.
Are you gonna be putting in heat pumps to?
Yeah, so it's gonna be heat pumps for the 2 new units.
And where will the condensers go for that?
So honestly, there's a variety of options, but where the garage is pretty flat, so we can easily just put them there and hook them up to the side of the building we want to, or it can easily be in the backyard area and hooked up to the side of the building.
I don't know if you've talked with building safety yet about location of that, but part of the code is they're not supposed to be visible from the street. You gotta have some screening in. So if you're gonna put them, you can't just put them out front.
Yeah, no, they won't be up front.
Okay,
They
so-
will not be in the front of the building.
Yeah,
Okay.
if anything, it would be in the back.
Yeah.
The back area, yeah.
Good.
So that back patio area, that's your open space that's gonna stay.
Yeah, that's gonna stay
available for any tenant use, it's not gonna be.
No, it'll stay the same.
Yeah.
It'll stay the same. We currently have a service that comes through that backside and they mow it every week.
Right.
It's accessible too. I
Okay.
think we have a little picnic table back there for tenants.
Okay.
Oh, this, paying the little parkland too, huh?
Yeah, for the fifth unit.
Have you submitted have they been discussed with Parks and Rec at all about that? Has that been submitted? We submit that.
We submit that.
Okay.
We did not get it in for the May meeting.
Okay. You know, we're talking about
Yeah, this is news.
no, there's a fee for every unit over 4 units. It's a payment a little parkland. So it's maximum is, which is what we're, just $3,000 a unit. So we submit that. Your property is going to be falling under that category to Parks and Rec. And they make a determination.
Okay,
So we're,
It's a one-time fee.
yeah.
sounds like it is what it is.
Maximum is 3.
Okay.
Plan on paying 3.
So it's beyond third.
First 4 are free, 5th one they gotta pay. 6th one they would pay, 7th one they would pay. So forth.
For new builds, is it the same thing?
And it's because you're adding the 5th unit on.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Fourth, the 2 units to make it 5. Anything else? When it comes. Should be able, this is part of our, yeah, she's got it in there in that spot, so that's gonna go in.
You guys don't have a Knox box on the building, right?
Not currently.
Yeah, so. Thank you. So under seeker, this is an unlisted action. I have before me a short environmental assessment form. Staff has indicated as an order. At this time, I'll make a motion that we approve it. Second by Matt Gillis. Wayne Platt is a yes. Oops, any discussion on that? Okay. Wayne Platt is a yes. Charles Palaco.
Yes.
Robert Jacobson, Matt Gillis.
Yes.
Vince Archer.
Yes.
That is passed. Thank you. Okay, we have a little laundry list here of,
Okay, so, the approval would be conditioned with policies 4, 4A, 6, 17A, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 23.
you'll get a list of all this stuff.
The defined usable open space will be clarified on the drawing. A recreation fee for the 1 unit over 4 at $3,000. Refuse containers will be stored out of sight and be brought out only weekly. And there will be no visible HVAC components on the street.
Those 40 houses.
Yes.
Okay. So the policies and conditions is part of my motion to approve item, what is this item number? 10.
10.
Robert Jacobson with a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Good luck. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You should go downstairs though.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Cool for you guys to see it. Let us know.
No, but it's non-consulting.
There's everyone's seriously full archives and everything else mentioned.
Oh.
I just think it'd be cool for them to go and see. They don't go back, you go as far as they come over. You want to change. Now that we have instructions.
Right, this one will be quick. Under old business number 11, 9 Prince Street is a request for extension on site plan / waiver approval issued in May of 2024 to construct 8 additional units on an existing multifamily property, section block lot 56.26-6-11, seeker determination Transect Zone T4N-O, it's in Ward 9, TPG Kingston 1 LLC is the applicant owner.
So if you recall, this, was new construction for a multifamily, property. They were moving along and had issues with the contractor. So now she's working on getting things back together. The original approval was for 1 year, which expires this month. And so she's asking for a second extension of a year. No real issue, no changes to any of her plans.
No issue.
Okay, motion by Robert Jacobson to approve the additional year.
Second by Matt.
Second by Matt Gillis, all in favor? Aye.
All
Opposed?
original conditions carried.
Yes, ma'am. All original conditions carried forward. That is approved. All right, Dennis.
So right. And that's the last.
Okay, sorry. All right.
I didn't know why we're always last on here.
You're not.
Sure.
Item number 12 is Golden Hill Drive Amendment to Planning Board Approval Resolution to address delayed installation of Boulevard traffic signal. Section block and lot is 56.40-1-19.310. Transect Zone SD-MF. Ward 3, seeking determination. Ulster County is the applicant, Golden Hill HDFC as nominee as the owner. All right.
Okay.
County Planning Director Dennis Doyle is here, and who's on your team here?
John Riccanotti from Penrose.
Okay, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Just give us an update, Jennifer.
Sure.
Since I know that's what you handed out.
Yes.
Do that.
Yeah, so I wanted to start off by giving an update on the status of the Golden Hill construction project. We've been making a lot of really exciting progress on site and wanted to share it with the board. So I have some photos from the project currently under construction from our cameras installed on site. In the first picture, you'll see the community building located in the center of the site. That's going to house a daycare facility to be operated by a family of Woodstock, as well as community facilities for the residential community. In the back right corner, you'll see the senior building with 80 units of senior housing. In the left back corner, you'll see the 48-unit mid-rise family building. And then 4 small townhome buildings in between those 2 large buildings. This is another shot of the senior building in one of the townhome buildings.
When were these done? These photos?
These photos are from today.
From today.
These are from the live EarthCam cameras that are on site monitoring the property. The third photo is of building B, the 80-unit senior building, and one of the townhome buildings in front of it. And then our completion schedule. So our contractor's been moving very quickly here, a little quicker than we expected. So we have an updated delivery schedule that we share with the planning board at this meeting. Building A, which is the 80-unit senior building, which includes 22 units of supportive housing for the elderly. That's going to be completed on September 17th of this year. Building B, which is the 48-unit family building, is going to be completed October 30th of this year. C, the daycare and community facility on August 29th of this year. D and E, which are both 9-unit townhome buildings, completed on September 17th of this year. And F and G, the 9-unit buildings, completed on October 30th of this year. And 26 domestic violence units for supportive housing are going to be spread throughout those townhome buildings as well. We are working to install a temporary traffic signal offsite ahead of occupancy for these buildings, and are committed to collaborating with the city and the city engineer in order to implement a plan that will ensure public safety.
What is the overall target date for all of the site issues, all of the site plan elements? So landscaping, lighting, the trail, the playgrounds, the final pavement. What is your overall target date? We know what the signal is now. So how does that look?
That's a good question. Landscaping is typically something that's, seasonal and sometimes handled in punch list. But we could look at all of those matters and get back to an exact day.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like when all of the finishing touches will all be finalized and done.
And when the contractor will be completely immobilized.
Yeah,
Well, we do know that the essential components are access, and all the curbing and all of the other work will be done when units are ready for occupancy. So the only question then becomes with respect to landscaping, but all your stormwater work has to be done, all your water and sewer work has to be done, all your initial work has to be done. Conversations we've had, it's really indicated that when looking at pavement conditions, we'll have a binder porch down for the pavement. We may be looking at paving later, and then some of these units, but the buildings will be absolute possibilities.
right. Okay. And Dennis, you and I spoke earlier today, but is there any movement on the 911 activity and the roadway naming and all that?
So, just for the board's, information, the naming process literally runs from from Penrose. They're looking at a name. What we have up there now is the access road into the site is Golden Hill Drive. The access road that goes to the actual site off of Golden Hill Drive is Golden Hill Road. And so we don't want to have those two names close together like that. So we're working with the 911 folks to pick a name. Penrose is going to give those folks essentially three preferred names. The 911 folks will pick one. And then there's a whole addressing thing that works out. They're usually 4-digit addresses, the first number being the building number, second number being the floor number, and the third and fourth number being the apartment numbers. So that's how that'll work out. That's ongoing right now. That also will deal with postal service addressing as well. I would want to say that we've arrived at some of the initial submittals. We were unsure where we were with respect to when Penrose was going to occupy the building. As we became much more essentially familiar with their move-in schedule, we made the recommendation back to Penrose that we needed a temporary traffic signal. Began that discussion with city staff. City staff also pushed us that way, and then worked on coordination with the city engineer's office. Finally, I would say we did provide the planning board a schedule from the county's contractor relative to when the current signal would be in place. That current schedule right now has moved to essentially the beginning of November in terms of when that signal will be in place. We continue to move that up as we looked at the schedule that Penrose was providing us. We actually had the contractor go out and put himself in a queue to order the long lead times, particularly the arm and the signal pole, so that they are ordered in the queue. We've also advanced the submittal requirements. We do have, and we're continuing to coordinate with the city engineer's office to make sure that the submittals that we are given are being approved by the city engineer's office. Those long lead items have been approved by the city engineer's office right now. We're still working, I think, on some of the electrical work that needs to get done.
So in layman's terms, when you say it's the orders in the queue, the arm, the pole, everything is being fabricated, right? That's the holdup. The fabrication has not been happened yet.
There's long lead time for those, but the short answer is that when you look.
And I'm learning about all this, I thought it was like, I got this, boom, we're done, like, here you go.
No, that's literally what,
Okay.
if you look at the timeframes involved, timeframes are involved in terms of site work. The longest timeframe involved is once you pour concrete for the poles that have to cure.
Because these are all custom. Is that why?
Well, they're not really custom. I will say that this is one of the longest arms that they make in terms of making sure that we can get this signal out across the roadway. The signal itself there's multiple signal heads on that signal. In addition, because of the vertical curvature, we're actually installing a post-mounted signal on the other side of the road. If you're headed north on 32, you'll pick up that signal first before you'll pick up the overhead signal.
Yeah, all right, hits a point. They know the top. All right, oh, yeah, I mean, we've received, public comment about, the status of the, of the signal system, opposition to installing a temporary lighting, so, I mean, I just want to acknowledge that we have received, even though this is not public hearing stuff, we're still received public comment about the status of that.
You want to talk about the gate a little bit,
Gate.
Dennis?
Sure. We had come back to the planning board, I believe, last in September, requesting an extension of the gate till the end of November, as I recall. That extension was granted by the planning board. We met that requirement. The gate was operational. We had city emergency services up there to make sure that the gate operated. If you recall, this gate is only for emergency services to make sure that they can get into emergency services. There is what they call a yelp function on the gate that essentially, when you use your siren, the gate opens. Since that time, the gate was originally damaged initially within, I think, 2 weeks of its opening. That damage was repaired and the gate was realigned so that we could make sure that the gate would open and close correctly. Once that was done, it was operated in the up position at the city's request. The city then asked us to close the gate. We did close the gate. After the gate was closed, there was another incident where the gate was damaged. This damage was more significant. We now have contracts with our contractor to repair that gate. The new gate arm is going to be LED lit so that it's much more visible. Where we are right now, as of an email this morning, the contractor is in the process of ordering parts. We believe he'll be in either before the end of this month or certainly in early June in terms of doing the next necessary work to correct that problem.
The damage, would you categorize that as malicious?
I would never say that. I mean, my sense is that it's easy to blame some people for doing that, but I would think that, what we're trying to avoid is make sure that it's visible, that you're not up there in the rain and you didn't see it, or you expected it to open when you drove up to it and it didn't. So what we're trying to do is basically indicate that it is really visible. There is a sign down on Washington Avenue that indicates there's no outlet to Glen Street. Conversations with the city, perhaps we will add signage at there that basically says, right now it says that you can't use the gate. It's a one-way system right now. What we're trying to do is make sure that perhaps there's a sign that says emergency vehicles only at the gate itself, so that we're not seeing people drive up to it and it doesn't open, so they try to push it open and eventually it damages the arm.
Good.
So that's kind of where we are on that.
That's an expensive fair, I would imagine.
Well, yes, I would also add it's a very expensive signal.
Well,
But yeah, I mean, we made this our second repair on the gate, but we would anticipate that it'll be operation in early June. What our contractor is doing.
so
So essentially, there is a drafted resolution in your packets. That does have some blanks in it that we need to go through and discuss what is in here. In the original decision that the board made in September of 22, one of the conditions specifically read that the traffic signal, that no certificates of occupancy would be issued, temporary or final, until the traffic signal was in place and operational. So that is the primary condition that they are looking to be modified or amended. That condition held through the September 23 resolution, which extended your approval for another year to the project. It did a couple of other things, and they're spoken to in the resolution, each of the decisions. As Dennis said, in 2024, they came back again and asked for an extension for the gate to be 90 additional days. So that was another issue that was granted. With each extension, all these original conditions carried through. So those original conditions are identified in the front of the resolution for you to review again. A couple of things that Dennis also had in his April 29th letter. Hopefully you looked at that, but it is attached to this resolution, this form of resolution as a official amendment or attachment to it. It discusses things that the county has done, as Dennis said, some pre-ordering has been done, other things that have been done so that this is expedited. It talks about the turnover schedule that you saw in Jonah's report, and there's this sheet from Creighton Manning's design of the traffic signal itself. Recognizing, that there is a need for housing, the project is is moving forward in a more expeditious manner than originally anticipated. We did talk about the temporary signal, and I spoke with the city engineer, and although he hasn't reviewed or signed off on a plan for it yet, he is willing, and he thinks that is a viable alternative on a temporary basis alone. So given that, I did build into this a couple of dates. One being that the temporary signal be in place by, Dennis and I spoke about this morning, August 15th, mid-August. So that when in September, when some of the occupancy in the community building, that's the first, I think, occupancy that's planned to take place, and that will be for the offices and for leasing purposes, that kind of thing, that they can get a temporary CO. And we spoke with the building department. They're agreeable to issuing temporary COs with the, obviously they'll obviously need all of the public safety issues in place. And they agreed that the temporary signal would provide the safety for that as well.
So temporary signal in place by August?
By August 15th.
So that the community had a chance to get used to the signal before you start pouring.
Exactly. Right. So, right. And that's exactly the reason for it to be done upfront. At the same time, obviously Dennis has spoken to the gate issue. We've talked about not putting that gate, maybe making that gate functional until the temporary signals are in place. But once the temporary signals are in place, then they should function and the gate should be able to be made functional as well.
Well, why would you keep the gate open if you have traffic lights on 32? Only because if you allow people to start to use Glen Street, they're going to get used to going through that gate. Why not just close it right from the get-go? So people know that's not.
That's what I'm saying. But make the August date, make the gate functional date coincide with the traffic signals being
So
functional.
those gates will be
So
down.
he said he could do it in June, right? Probably maybe June, get the gate functional again. I wouldn't activate that gate until you have the temporary signals in place.
Okay.
And what you're talking about right now is all fifth, just being able to fill.
For both,
I mean, technically that gate's supposed to be down now anyway. Isn't it?
right.
So why is it just, once it's functional, it's down? I just don't think that gate should be open. I mean, the whole purpose of the gate was for it to be down. It's supposed to.
But if it's broken,
But the
emergency access
concern,
is
the
not.
concern is, the concern is the difficulty of using and the safety issue with using the 32 access.
But now all that construction, so is all that construction using Glen Street right now?
No, they're going out to 32.
So then who's using, going through that gate right now?
I would suspect maybe,
So one of the things you don't see is the request from the existing nursing facility that their folks are requesting that the gate not be closed from the county's perspective because of their concerns with some of the people that have to use 32. And they're requesting that it be made open until the signal is operational. I mean, we certainly can close it if the city decides. That's what we did in the past.
So once there's safe access in and out of 32, then the gate goes down.
Yes. So that's one date that's in here. We're also, and you can read through what we are proposing. But obviously we want the city engineer and Public Works to sign off on a plan for the temporary signals before any work is initiated and installation begins. That only temporary COs will be issued once that light is, those temporary signals and gate are functioning. And that one thing that John had mentioned early on that we would like to discuss is that he thought that only a percentage of COs should be issued, okay, under the temporary light signal. He said 25%. So we've looked at that. What they are asking for is that their estimated time that the buildings will be ready is mid-September, 9/17, right? So that's when they would be able to be leased up as long as they meet building safety division's concerns for the TCOs. If that's the case, then it's a month and a half until the November date that Dennis has submitted with the schedule for the light, the permanent light to actually be functional. So Penrose has also given us that it's approximately 30 to 40 units a month to be leased up. So you have a month and a half time frame. That's probably maybe about 50 units, 55 units, right? 25% of the 164 units, which John had mentioned, is 41 units. So you're pretty much in that ballpark. So we did leave a section in here for you to either give a percentage or a number of units that could be leased out on using the temporary light and the TCOs. And that's an open discussion for the board to have right now.
Is 25%, I'm going to ask the county, is that too low or?
Well, that's about 41 units.
So, given the availability of these buildings and the lease-up schedule, I would also say, just a couple of things I would say. Number one is we did look at a crash analysis since we originally proposed the project and since the planning board's approval. There's been no crashes associated with the Route 32 exit in that timeframe. Compared to the original study that we gave you, which was a total, I believe, of 5, 4 of which were related to animals associated with the Route 32 intersection. Same thing with respect to Glen Street. There have been no crashes associated with Glen Street since our original discussion with you on that. That doesn't mean that we should be concerned, but I would say that there's considerable time and effort involved in setting temporary signals up. And if we're going to do that and they're going to work, and they work for if they're going to work for a facility that essentially is carrying about 700 cars, if you look at the AADT on Route 32, that AADT is about 8,000 cars a day, annual average daily traffic volume. The temporary signals are safe for those. Then the argument I would give you is that then they're also safe for the access out of Golden Hill Drive.
I guess that's the question, is temporary signals. I mean, how much traffic can they handle?
I don't know. I'm not a traffic engineer.
So
So I think though, I mean, given, what the numbers that, Penrose is anticipating in terms of lease up, in terms of the schedule that the board has been presented with, that you might look at maybe doing 60 units. And by November, if everything falls into place, that certainly satisfies what they're saying in terms of the 30 to 40.
What's the total unit count again? I'm sorry.
164. So in terms of, that's 2 months of maybe leasing up. And if the permanent light is, we also have the date in here for the permanent light to be completed by, then it should not be an issue. Once permanent light is in, then I don't have an issue with the
I
additional.
would say just, why don't we come up with like a max? Like, I mean,
Well, that's what I'm saying. You can do either a percentage or you can do a number of units
I would just do
max.
a number of units max.
Okay.
That-
It's
all-
either, it's.
You
really
talked about
either way.
60, you talked about 60?
So I mentioned 60 as.
30% is
Yeah, but
55.
you mentioned 40 on startup month 1, 40 on startup month 2. In theory, the signal would be in, so you'd have 80
Right,
units.
well,
correct?
what they submitted was 30 to 40 a month. So they'll be actually, if they start mid-September, if they meet all the building department's requirements to get temporary COs, then they have basically a month and a half time before November. So 30 to 40, that's maybe 50 units.
So mid-September to mid-November, you're basically, let's say 40. And we both know that traffic signal is not going to be in mid-November, even though they say it is, everything runs late.
Well,
And plus-
that is
plus-
their, that's
plus they have to
the
do the-
calendar, that's the construction calendar. So,
That came from our, from the contractor. It didn't come from the tank. The contractor's proposed schedule.
so,
I know, but everything runs.
well,
So if we have 40 in September,
if they need to come back, they come back.
I'm trying to say, like, if we have 40 from mid-September to mid-November, do we do another 40 to mid-December and cap it at 80? That's what I'm trying to.
That is
Well,
for
that's what I-
ask your board member.
30% is 55 units.
Correct, but that's only gonna be really month 1. Because
So
no matter how many units you have, they're gonna try and start these.
So
up
you
again.
propose to cap it at 80?
Well, that's kind of the
Yeah.
conversation. I'm like, you're gonna have month 1, month 2, and you're gonna go into month 3. So if
The
you're
question
40, you're
is,
40, 80, the
but the
question is,
question is, what will the temporary signals be able to?
well, I think whatever
Because
number
the
we come
temporary
up, it's
signal
gonna be
is
subject to.
much different than a permanent.
To handle
Say,
how much do they have?
What,
the way Dennis
What would be the reason for putting handicap on occupancy if we can get a temp signal approved by the city engineer that has the same efficacy as a perm signal?
We want to see the permanent signals put in.
Well, you all understand. We do have a contract. It's a substantial
I
contract.
understand.
We won't be able to get a final.
We're gonna have- we're gonna have
We
people
won't be able to get a
screaming
final
at us.
CO.
You know, we're gonna have folks screaming at us. You
So,
know,
Well, that's why I'm trying to come up with a
I know.
total number of units and give them like 2 or 3 months to do it and have the engineer sign off on it.
I mean,
But
So
wouldn't
we
that,
come up
wouldn't
with
that
80
final,
and we come up
would
with
the final
100.
CO not be enough
I
for
would,
motivation
go more than 80.
to get
I
temporary
would-
signal?
No,
That would be my personal opinion, I think, given what the information that they've, they're relying on their contractor, I'm presuming he's, reliable, and he said that is his date to deliver, then.
I mean, look, we
No,
know
I know,
this is gonna
I
happen.
agree with
We know
you.
it's gonna
Just
happen.
you just have a lot of vendors that are supplying the goods, and if they run behind, it's contractor can't install something he doesn't have. So,
I mean, we can set a number now, and then if things, change, they come back. I mean, we can't predict, right? If that's what you're saying.
that's what I'm saying, that's why you're too tight of a schedule, I mean, if you're 40 and you're 80, I mean, where do you cap off 100? I mean, if they have 60 units that are sitting empty, 64 units sitting empty, they're gonna be screaming their contract.
No. So,
I just don't know that.
I would do 2 months, and I think that's reasonable.
that's 80.
Mhm.
I don't, could I get you in a bidding war? I appreciate it. I think, but I honestly do think that the comment that Joan made, which is essentially if it's a safe operation, then the question is why are we limiting the ability to move in and out of Golden
Well,
Drive?
We don't know that at this point in time, so we can certainly have that discussion. If it's in place and it is a safe operation and it's working fine, then maybe you come back and we adjust it. But this also keeps, I think, the county and the contractors' feet to the fire to get that signal in and functioning.
So I just want to talk about feet to the fire question. I mean, we've done quite a bit of effort with respect to get us this far. We've done a lot of work relative to make sure that we could make a dent in terms of where the schedule was. And you do have the contractor schedule here. I also wanted to basically say you do have an affordable housing project at the end of this. And that's a critical need at the county level, and to leave it open on an arbitrary number, whether it's 40 or 100. The question I would say is it safe that that's a conversation that we're going to have, that we've laid out? Traffic lane closures, which is a company that is looking at these signals, is willing to state that they think it's safe. You know, they're proposing it. They have a liability associated with it. So when all of this is done, the signal is going to operate essentially in green on Route 32. So both signals at the either end of Route 32 are going to rest in green. So you'll go through those signals as if it was the same thing today. The signal on Golden Hill is going to be controlled by a radar system that essentially says when you pull up to that signal, it changes the signals on Route 32 from green to red. Then you're allowed to proceed out of Golden Hill Drive. All right. So the worst you're going to have is delay, but you're not going to have a safety issue on that signal pattern.
I mean, I just know they use these signals all over the state when they do bridges and things like that, so they have to accommodate a certain amount of traffic. I'm not a traffic person, so if you guys want to make the arguments for how many units and what, then table it for a month and let the engineers talk about it.
Well, I was going to say that, I mean, the discussion we're having right now is based on discussions that staff had with the applicants and our city engineer. So
The city engineer hasn't seen any plans yet, so if they provide the city engineer with what they're doing, then he can speak to the traffic engineer, they can come up with a count that what this can handle. I'm not the person to decide this.
My discussion relative to
And this month and next month isn't gonna really make a difference, because we're talking about.
but you're gonna want a decision one way or the other. I mean, tonight, like, is that, or can this wait? I don't want to delay that. I don't want to kick the can down the road, but.
Well, I mean, he's arguing for more.
Well, again, I mean, what we're talking about is based on the information that they've given to us. We're not.
On the number of units per month.
Right, we're not
I understand, but
making
what
those
is our
numbers
engineer
up.
saying?
Numbers that they're saying they want to lease out per month, 30 to 40. And also that, that the light will be operational and functional in November. So those are numbers they've submitted. So if you put those together, there should not be an issue. Technically, the light should be functioning. They should be within their numbers of leasing out.
But
And
what is our engineer saying about their plan with these towns? Is that approved? Did he have the plan and look
he
at it?
has not.
Yeah, we didn't have a chance to go over with him in as much detail as we would have liked to. Just the timing ended up being really bad with him being out of the office. So we, got together and with the engineer who's working on the permanent traffic signal, the town signal company, and then the county, and came up with this conceptual plan.
So let the engineer talk about it for the next month and then have him come back with an opinion.
That's an option.
And that's what I think. I don't,
Or you
I'll be honest with you, I don't think the traffic signal is going to be in November, no matter what they say or what their contractor says. Everything runs behind it. Right now, they're waiting for back ordered items that take a long time to produce. If those things aren't in truck and they're at a perfectly scheduled time, then it's not in. And we do have a housing issue. So if we can work out the traffic signals so they're perfectly functional, and then we can put more housing on the market also in the late fall versus December or November when we're in winter season and holidays, I think it would be beneficial to both sides.
Up to the board. How does the board feel? Vince, start with you.
That sounds reasonable.
Table or,
Table, because I don't see
okay.
the relationship to this temporary light and occupancy. I don't understand that relationship because if the access is going to be over 32 and the temporary light is going to be functional, and Glen Street should be shut off except for emergency use. I don't see the issue. I don't see the issue we're having with numbers, right? And the units.
I'm fine with the temporary light.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And so what the engineers, figure out what the count is, like,
The relationship to that light and the occupancy, I don't understand. But you guys are proposing. I understand.
Yeah, I just think that if there's information that would be helpful to make a decision that could get, any kind of public backlash on, it's worth getting it. I think we should get the information and people. And then if they deem it, like I said, it's good, then I think that we have more solid ground to move forward. Due diligence, I think, Rob, it's a do. Community, that's just. Chunk.
they got a call. One, what are we voting on?
Well, that's what we're
Trying to
We're gonna
That's what we're
get
trying to do.
discussion on
Trying to figure
that.
out whether we should vote or we should ask for more information.
Well, the county knows just what we're saying. We can vote on it, we can approve it or disapprove it, or if we do approve it, we can put it in. If this isn't there, then, then they have to go back. Why keep dragging it on? I mean, nobody here can say whether you could do it or not. You could do
That's
40.
the point. How do you vote on it if you don't have that
That's
information?
what I'm saying. That just turn around and
Well,
you're opening it up.
you're saying that
with
it's
the
not
temporary lights.
done.
You know.
The contractor is saying November is the date he'll deliver, so.
Well, I'm saying it's not gonna be done, but I'm also saying you got a lot of units that are gonna sit empty, and if it's not done, then we're in a pickle. So why don't we take the time now, have the engineers look at it? Yeah, but they're gonna come back, there's gonna be a shotgun meeting. Instead, now is the time to have traffic engineer, talk to the city engineer, figure out what everything is. If you still wanna go back to the 20, at least then when you get to November, you know what these traffic's gonna be. You're not screaming.
Maybe what do you?
How does this affect you if we put it off for a month? I mean,
I would say two things. One is that I think that it's better if the board is going to cap units and we're going to come back and argue this position one more time, I would much rather see the board make a decision based on a clear indication that both the engineers, our engineer and your engineers agree that it can handle the traffic. I don't have, I want to say that it would be really appropriate not to put it off any longer than next month.
okay.
That's what I was trying to say.
So, I mean, where we are, part of the discussion tonight is, based on your build out per month for units, right? These are the numbers that you provided. This was the discussion with the city engineer, staff. That's what the projected build out was going to be, right? I also have a concern that, I mean, some of the public up there is skeptical that when they see a temporary light, I know it's going to be a permanent light put in there. I know that that's going to happen. That's going to be the end result. But when the public sees something go in on a temporary basis and say Robert's prediction comes to fruition, now we're into December and the temporary light is still there. This is when people are going to start screaming at us, So, and this goes to Sue saying holding people to the fire, feet to the fire to get this thing to the finish line. So if we can wait a month, these are all the things that are,
Wait, I hear you.
you get it too, Dennis,
I hear you. I would, let me just say that. One is I think that, the city engineer's comment with respect to the percentage of units was based on the fact, I recall, was based on the fact that it was before we were considering a temporary signal. And now that the temporary signal is placed, I'm not sure how the city engineer would feel, because we have an opportunity to talk to him. But I would think that if these things are used quite a number of different places around the state, this is not an unusual situation. That's the first thing. The second thing is that our feet is to the fire, not relative to what this planning board says, in all due respect. we want this facility open and operating and absolutely putting people in it. I have marching orders from a lot of different people, but one of them is to make sure that we get this done in the timeframe that we've talked about. It would have been done sooner, quite frankly, but we did have some other issues associated with what we're doing here. But I mean, understand something, we have a contract for well over $500,000 for this.
Okay, but you know, we can't just say,
I get it.
full build out, go right to the end and we need to put, if we're gonna do a number, we gotta do a number.
I just want to know I just want to know that the temporary signal can handle. Is that back?
That's a good point. So, but if we can, I'm sorry, I don't want to delay this anymore. And if you folks are okay with chatting together with traffic, engineers and how this thing can handle, if you're good with that.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about this with the traffic.
Okay, otherwise for tonight, I think we're gonna,
Yeah.
otherwise we would have to, I think, put a number on that tonight. I think, if we
Yeah,
can.
it just feels like it's gonna be very arbitrary.
Okay.
If we're gonna be trying to do that tonight, in my opinion.
Okay. So if you can, if you're comfortable with that, like I said, I don't want to delay anything, but if we can come back next month and with some more concrete stuff, I think that would be productive. So
We'll take that in the form of a sort of a mini analysis of what a traffic signal could handle out there. Because we do have a traffic study that was done for the project that the consultants did for Penrose. We have the traffic study that was done for the city that recommended the signal. We can look at those turning movements and stuff like that and come back and give you this is the signal will not have, as a temporary signal will not have any issue handling that volume of traffic.
yeah.
And I think it's comfortable to say that it will not be a full build out, even if the traffic signal can handle it, because I think they still want some type of a holdback. But it may not be as big of a gap if the traffic signal can handle it through. Well,
Nice.
But I promise this is the last.
No, Dennis, go ahead, brother.
I would note that I think what we're not requesting here is COs. We're requesting temporary COs. So think of it this way, the holdback here is that they need to convert those temporary COs to COs. And that's a huge lift for Penrose relative to what you're going to grant them in order to begin occupancy of the units.
Because we want to start to see these.
And I assume
units being occupied.
whatever financing,
We'll get the impression something
Think of it that way.
the CO, the permanent COs, which is going to hold their feet to the fire
Yeah,
as well.
the leverage here is not necessarily on the signal side. The leverage here is on the financing other sides associated.
They will require permanent COs financing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other discussion? I think we're inclined to table right now. Motion by Robert Jacobson to table, second by Matt Gillis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
I just want to thank you for your time. I also want to basically congratulate the board, the city, and the developer for Baxter's proposal. It's an excellent reuse of that particular space, and it takes advantage of an opportunity that's too long essentially sitting there. Really appreciate the fact that you folks found one and that you would let down to the over. Much appreciated.
Thank you for your kind words, Dennis. Thank you. All right.
I do have one.
We have one more item. Two more.
You didn't do that on the fly, did you?
Do you want these back for now or?
You
Okay.
guys-
All right.
Are we running these copies?
No, I'm going to read that.
All right.
That was
Board policy.
All right, discussion, board policy additions, adding board policies to address New York State Department of Environmental Conservation requirements for sanitary sewer extension and new freshwater wetlands regulation. The first one part of the what came about is for the Blue Stone report.
Well, no, policy 25 would be the DEP, that's a sanitary.
Doesn't.
It's an extension, so basically anything that is anticipated to exceed 2,500 gallons per day is considered a sewer extension by DEC. And so there is a process by which they need to get a capacity to serve letter from the city engineer, and that goes through the DEC review. It's happened a couple times where applicants have moved forward and not realized that they needed this, so we want to make it a board policy up front. They see it up front, and it's on their radar at the beginning of the project, and not at the end of the day when all of a sudden during you get everything. It's really just more of an informative type of thing. But it'll be there, they'll know they need to get it, they can work with the city engineer, and then by the time they have their approval, hopefully the PUC thing is all in line already. So that's the purpose of that one. The second one is a new policy 26, which deals with the wetlands. This is one that you saw come up with the Lucas Avenue project. And this is new in January of this year. And it's requires wetlands, a jurisdictional determination letter to be issued by New York State DEC when there are wetlands of any size on any property in the city of Kingston, because there's no longer an acreage minimum. And so the DEC mapping that you see on the mapper, the EAF mapper is no longer a resource.
But they have on the DEC map of this new section, it's in color pink.
Okay.
Because I had a client that was looking at that piece of property.
Yeah.
A month ago,
But
it would
if there
show the
is
blue.
even if it's not there, if there's any wet area, even if it's.
Certain criteria that if it meets that criteria, then they,
Who enforces that?
Well, it's the property owner's obligation to go with the NSDC and make that determining
Right.
if they.
But if they see wet.
No, if
So-
there is any indication of
But who's
wet,
making that indication?
Yeah.
well, it's the property owner's responsibility, but as a planning board, if you know that there's an intermittent stream, if you look at the vegetation and it's typical vegetation associated with wet area, if there's other indications, any property, because you're in a city of Kingston, anything in an urbanized area has to be looked at. It doesn't matter how big it could be.
So what if they don't go through with
Your
this?
land, but it's true.
And it comes before us. Do we tell them,
Then you tell them that, yeah,
You got-
for example, with
did you
the,
check? I'm not being joking with this.
I did have
Actually,
a
check.
client cancel a contract 2 weeks ago because it was in note that a buildable envelope where the pre-existing house wasn't burned down. That new map came out and went halfway across, and now all the utilities, everything has to get shoved like a couple thousand feet in the back. And said no, it's for the expense.
We've been telling people, that they should start the process if they think they have.
Yeah.
What area?
Because it's-
So they're right now, the state's being sued over this, so it's too.
well, yeah, that's,
Do we have to vote on
anyway,
this?
so that's,
Yeah.
yes.
Sue wants it. Yeah.
So do we think a motion to approve
Motion.
Last
the established, board policies 25 and 26?
Anyway, some of this.
Okay, and this, as I say this in jest, sometimes when people get some wrong stuff, board policies, I say sometimes we should tell them which ones that do not apply to that. And so, well, it's a short. This what I mean? Yeah. All
Is
right,
there a motion?
motion by Robert Davidson. Do,
Was it like 5 of them when we started with this board?
I don't know, if they're. We should do them in Roman numerals.
Pretty soon, we're gonna need PP and then.
Yeah.
There are any.
We're getting a little punchy now. So, all right, so Robert has a motion to approve the establishment of policies, the addition board policies 25 and 26. Who's got a second on that? Second by Chuck Balaco.
I'm in favor.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Right.
Okay, so the next then, the grants office asked for 3 letters of support on 3 grants. One is to the, it's inland flooding and LWRP program. It's for Kingston Point Beach Swimming Facilities and Upgrades Project. I drafted them here if anybody cares to read them. Just asking the board to authorize me to sign off on these. The second one is to the Coastal Rehabilitation and Resilience Project grant, and it's for a new pump station down by Mariners Harbor. And that's to replace that pump station down there, which is a constant issue.
Which
And-
one is that?
By the water.
It gets flooded all the time.
Where is it? Underground?
Yeah, Yeah.
In the park?
it's kind of right in front of Mariners Harbor.
Okay.
Yeah, right there. So it's building a new one.
Speaking
That would
of
be-
wetland.
But is the new one gonna be above there?
Yeah, it'll be, yeah. Yeah. And not near that.
It's gonna be in the shape of a swan.
Used to be booths down there.
And the last one is to the watersheds application. It's for Twaskill Brook culverts replacement. Twaskill Brook culvert replacements along Wilbur Avenue.
Oh, okay.
So those are 3 grant.
I'll make a motion, we approve all 3 of those going to sign.
Well, on discussion, what they want to do down the point, it's not going to solve any problems for us.
The raising of the parking.
They're planning on coming in and putting stone down and raising that, and the water's going to well where.
I was at that meeting, speaking of wetlands, it already is a wetland, so that's gonna be deemed a wetland when the grass portion is grown over. And then the first phase is raising
The
the,
whole Kingston Point was raised, it used to be the city dump.
yeah. So I think it's 3 feet, but it matches the proposal for the Schumer grant to raise the road, whatever that is.
Who?
Chuck Schumer.
Pretty part of the proposal for the Lower Broadway. And the proposal for the point has to do with the numbers that they have for raising the road.
The raised grant for
Yeah.
the East Strand, East Broadway being elevated.
Right.
Okay.
They're all kind of connected.
People that know a lot more about wetlands than I do.
But this
There's a motion on the table. I don't think we've seen a second, and then you guys can have further discussion before you do a full vote on it. Right now, there was a motion made, so we should see procedurally a second.
Okay, so there's
All
second.
right, any further discussion if you guys want to continue before you vote?
Any further discussion?
I will say that the Finance and Audit Committee looked at these grants at its last meeting and approved their being submitted. So this is essentially just.
I mean, this is just the goal for a grant.
Yeah.
They're gonna go
Yeah,
regardless.
just to go for a grant. You don't know whether you're gonna give it or not, but at least having a letter of approval from the planning board saying that you support it is helpful in terms of securing the funding. And it seems like those two
Somebody
projects,
else.
Yeah, and it's timely.
yeah, it's very
You don't
timely
have
for those two
to-
projects.
Done.
All right, so, all in favor of throwing our support behind these 3 grant requests? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Carried. 4-1. Whatever.
Nine, please.
Yes.
Okay, go back.
Oh, yeah.
Are you on? We couldn't get on.
I'm back.
That was the vote for this decision.
Okay, so then we're gonna have to shut the meeting.
Oh,
Anything else for our next slide? Anything else?
No.
Motion to adjourn by Robert Jacobson, second by Ben Gillis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Get that up there.
Yeah.
Here, here, I need signatures